Is sustainable living off the grid feasible? Vertical bar, an insightful guide. When pondering the concept of individuals embracing an off-grid lifestyle, living in a home entirely self-sustained, free from any ties to utility companies, it may conjure images of reclusive doomsday enthusiasts residing in remote, rustic hideaways. However, according to Ivan Penn, the New York Times correspondent specializing in renewable energy, this is not necessarily the reality. Through his investigative reporting, he has uncovered instances of people adopting off-grid, living in contemporary middle-class residences, including expansive estates equipped with luxurious amenities such as hot tubs and swimming pools. Nevertheless, one must ask, are there drawbacks to completely disconnecting from the grid? In a recent episode of What Next? TBD, I engaged in a conversation with Penn, delving into the allure of off-grid living and the potential repercussions of a mass departure from the electrical grid. Our dialogue has been refined and summarized for clarity. Seth Stevenson. Suppose I were interested in transitioning to an off-grid lifestyle, opting for solar panels and batteries but not acquiring land and a house. How much would such a choice cost me? Yvonne Penn. The cost varies, with lower estimates starting at around $35,000 to $50,000. Contractors specializing in off-grid systems typically quote prices up to approximately $100,000. Many individuals believe there are tax incentives or government subsidies available to assist with the installation costs of an off-grid system. Can one obtain financial assistance for this purpose? Yes, indeed. This is a significant factor that can make a difference today. There exists a federal tax incentive, although it has decreased from 30% to roughly the mid-20s. It is important to note that this incentive may expire unless renewed by Congress. Have there been recent technological advancements that have made it more viable to establish a self-contained energy infrastructure? In the past, individuals relied on technologies like lead-acid batteries in conjunction with backup generators. These lead-acid batteries were quite cumbersome. Some homeowners I spoke to possessed a whopping 12,000 pounds of lead-acid batteries. However, technology has evolved significantly, shifting from lead-acid batteries to wall-mounted lithium-ion batteries. This represents a substantial transformation. Additionally, solar panels have continued to enhance their efficiency while becoming more cost-effective. We've witnessed the cost drop from approximately $11.40 per watt to less than $4 per watt. Do you have any insights into how many people in the United States are currently living off-grid? And has the trend toward off-grid living been accelerating? The precise number of off-grid residents remains elusive as tracking becomes challenging when individuals are off the grid. However, we did consult with Primal Survivor, an organization focused on disaster preparedness, and they reported a significant surge in requests for information related to off-grid living. During events such as wildfires in California in 2019 or last year's storms in Texas that left millions without power, it became evident that our electrical grids are becoming less reliable due to factors like climate change and aging infrastructure. However, merely having solar panels is insufficient to keep the lights on. A complete system, including batteries for energy storage, is necessary to store the power generated by the panels. In these emergency situations where the electric grid falters, having only solar panels won't provide a reliable power source. However, with batteries, you can maintain a power supply. Consequently, people started showing more interest in batteries as a result of experiences during wildfires. Individuals began to realize the value of exploring battery and solar solutions. This is where the potential of electric vehicles, not just as transportation, but also as a source of power, is gaining prominence. Is this approach more cost-effective and environmentally friendly? It is especially cost-effective, as it combines both elements. By obtaining a battery capable of powering your home and owning an electric vehicle, you essentially have an all-in-one package. Instead of separately purchasing a lithium-ion battery and installing it in your garage, the solution is integrated within the electric vehicle. Is there a concern that this might exacerbate income inequality, where those who can afford the substantial upfront costs of off-grid living reap long-term benefits, while those with limited initial financial resources remain tied to costly power companies? In reality, the majority of individuals are unlikely to disconnect from the grid in the foreseeable future. Thus, we must continue to maintain the grid for the time being. With federal objectives in mind, such as the President's goal of 500,000 vehicle chargers and transitioning half of the vehicles on the road to electric by 2030, technological advancements necessitate upgrades to the electric grid. The expenses associated with these upgrades will inevitably fall on grid-connected consumers. On the other hand, proponents argue that rooftop solar represents a form of energy efficiency. It eases the burden on the grid, reducing the need for additional large-scale power plants and transmission lines. Furthermore, surplus electricity generated by rooftop solar systems benefits neighboring consumers. When a rooftop solar owner feeds excess electricity into the grid, it benefits the local community rather than being redirected to distant areas. Thus, there are advantages for neighbors when individuals choose to generate solar power on their rooftops. However, if one chooses to go completely off-grid, they no longer contribute to their neighbor's power supply in this manner, correct? Indeed, the direct contribution diminishes. Nevertheless, there are indirect benefits to consider. For example, during Hurricane Ida, a homeowner with solar panels and batteries was able to offer phone charging services to neighbors in need. It's akin to the energy version of, "Can I borrow a cup of sugar?" You also receive benefits from your neighbors in such scenarios. While embracing self-sufficiency and being able to maintain power when others experience outages are significant advantages, there's also the downside that if your power goes out, you cannot simply call the electric company for assistance. How do individuals who have adopted off-grid living cope with this challenge? Indeed, when you choose to live off-grid, you must be self-reliant, and this is a considerable factor to consider. However, many of these individuals have carefully planned their setups. Several have attested, "I never experience power outages. It's not a concern for me." They admit that while they may have been apprehensive initially, over time, they have come to realize that their power supply is more reliable than the existing electric grid. In February, the California Public Utilities Commission was poised to make decisions regarding measures that would reduce incentives for homeowners to install rooftop solar systems. However, this vote was indefinitely postponed and remains undecided. Could you provide insights into the debate surrounding this vote? Your article suggests that both sides of the debate advocate for renewable energy. The California regulator's effort was aimed at addressing the issue of subsidizing rooftop solar owners. Over the years, the state has provided subsidies to encourage the installation of solar panels on rooftops. Currently, there are well over 1 million rooftop solar installations in California. The question revolved around determining the appropriate compensation for individuals who feed surplus electricity generated by their solar systems into the grid. Furthermore, it sought to address how these individuals should contribute fairly if they continue to remain connected to the grid, rather than completely disconnecting. These individuals are not grid defectors, and if they stay connected, they benefit from various grid services and components. Shouldn't they make some contribution? On the other side, there's the utility-scale perspective. It is universally acknowledged that decarbonizing the grid is essential in combating climate change. Utility companies argue that it is more.